Back to the Barca Breakdown. My name is Adam. I'm here with Yus.
What's up, guys? Smash that subscribe button because we just had the first game of the season against Rayo Vallecano, the team that beat us twice last season for the first time.
The team that got Koeman fired
Yeah.
and then beat us, I think, for the third time in a row at Camp Nou last season. So going into this game, we should have been a little bit more tempered in our expectations. I feel like that's going to be the whole issue this whole season. But 0-0 draw, first game for Xavi's new team with new players. And I think at the Camp Nou, exactly. The Camp Nou was bussin', which is really good, right? Bustling because, you know, everyone has so much excitement for what this team could be. And that Dembele, Lewandowski, Raphinha front three, we expect so much from this season. But I think this game as a whole has really carried on some of the main trends we've been talking about for the last, 2 to 4 weeks here in the preseason. And we kind of saw where things are falling, right? Whether it's the idea that Pedri and Gavi should be in midfield or if we still need Frenkie De Jong, I think this game clearly showed Frenkie De Jong should be a starter. Whether it's can we play Dest at right back or should we have Araujo or Koundé there? We saw in this game Araujo is right back and it didn't work out as well as it could have, and I think Serginho Dest would have had a good game there. And so I think to just break it down, let's go into that starting lineup and let's talk about how Xavi had us line up for this first game against Rayo Vallecano.
Sure, of course, Stegen, Alba, Christensen, Garcia, and Araujo, as you just said, on the right back. Midfield, we had Busquets, Pedri, Gavi, and in the front, as you said again, Dembele, Raphinha, and Lewandowski.
So the big, right? I want to ask you about the big thing,
ahead.
right? Which is that we just had this video with the purists. We'll link it here, talking about who is our, best back four. And in this game, we didn't even call up Serginho Dest on the bench. He wasn't even available, right? And we went with Araujo as that right back, especially because Koundé, the levers weren't enough for us to sign him yet, and he also didn't have any preseason games, so it looks like it's going to be a few weeks until Koundé is officially on the team and playing games. And so we went with Araujo at right back instead of Sergio Roberto, of course, instead of Dest, who's not here, and then we started Garcia and Christensen. So I want you to talk a little bit, Yus, because you had talked about in the preseason that you thought this would be Xavi's lineup. How did Araujo and the backline in general perform compared to how you were expecting?
So let's start off with Christensen, just because in that video that you're referring to, I talked about the exciting preseason. He was good at passing. He was able to find the open man, push the ball forward. And in this game, I think he lacked that ability. Now, is that due to the fact that he was just off point and just not connecting with those passes? Possibly, but I also think there was some disconnect in the midfield. I think it was a hard time moving that ball forward because of the midfield didn't seem to be able to pull back, receive the ball, and push forward. A lot of times we went to the wings there. And then on the Garcia side, I only said Garcia because I had thought that was Xavi's choice, and he so chose that. I don't think he did particularly anything.
Why do you think that's Xavi's choice?
He's just shown to prefer him overall. I think he's one of the players that is able to make good passes and run with the ball forward to progress the team, which he did some of that in this game. But again, with the midfield not having a full connection, I think that was a hard thing for both center backs. And then in the right side, Araujo, I don't know. I wasn't too confident with that just because he just didn't seem to. Well, I don't remember what game he started right back in the preseason, but it seemed to be kind of a duplicate of that. But this time he
Classico, I believe.
Okay,
is
the
where
Classico.
He started. And I think overall, what I'm kind of seeing from Araujo, and it's not a criticism of him because it's not his natural position. Mm-hmm. It's more of a criticism, I guess, of Xavi choosing to play him there. I think Araujo makes sense in games like if we're playing PSG or Real Madrid, where they have a really pacey winger and they're going to try and take the ball against us. Because Araujo certainly defensively, he can do well. What I think happens is if we're going to try and play Araujo at right back every game, we're going to run into huge issues like we did against Rayo, right? Rayo last season as well are very well disciplined in defense. They are able to hit on the counter sometimes against us. They seem to have our number, right? They've gone 2 wins and 1 draw in the last 3 games against us. And a lot of teams, especially in the 8th and below in the La Liga table, are going to play with like 10 men behind the ball. And I think having Araujo as a right back in those situations just doesn't make sense because there's no connection between Araujo and Dembele or Araujo and Raphinha at times when they switch sides up front on that right wing. And so, I don't think Araujo makes sense against this type of team. There were even some positions defensively where we saw him out of position and could have let up a goal. And so I think that's my impression. And I think we really need to give Serginho Dest a chance. Or if we don't trust Dest at all, and that's what Xavi's saying, we need to get rid of our fantasy of Bernardo Silva and instead sign a right back, or, give Sergio Roberto and Dest the chance to prove themselves there, or Koundé himself.
Yeah, Roberto only has one season as of now, though, so we got to be wary on who we're putting our time and effort in to these, this big season, because there are high expectations. And
but I kind of disagree with that because, and I was commenting a little bit on social media, but the thought needs to be this season, right? This is kind of the big issue I see with our team, is that I want Xavi to be a 5 to 10 year manager at Barca. I want him to be here for a long time, and that means we need to give him patience. We need to allow him build the team, build a winning mindset, and still his tactics. But I feel like the levers we have pulled economically necessitate us winning now, right? Because we've basically sold some of our profits in the hopes that our victories will allow us to make up that revenue we've sold off, right? And so I don't think we have the time to be patient. And so I understand what you're saying. Sergio Roberto is not a long-term solution, but we just need a solution who's going to win us games, right? And so I just don't think Araujo at right back against teams playing a low block is going to do well. If there's a team with a fast winger and someone we need to counter, Araujo makes sense. This game, I don't think he did. And then I kind of wanted to shift to something you said earlier, which ties into the midfield here, right? Which is that in general, I thought the players who were most disappointing in this game were by far Pedri and Gavi. And I think it's...
Busquets is high on that list.
Sure, but I don't think he was high as Pedri and Gavi, to be honest with you. I just felt like our midfield really was not able to create anything. It seemed like our whole offensive structure in that first and second half was really to try and get the ball out wide to Raphinha and Dembele and then have them create some magic. And through that process, the midfield was really absent, right? That whole first half, I was thinking to myself, where is Pedri? Why have I not seen Pedri on the ball making any incisive passes? He had one good shot opportunity that he got from a nice Dembele cross. And so overall, you see what was the big sub that kind of turned the game for us in a lot of ways, and it was the sub on of Frenkie De Jong in that second half. And so I feel like I leave this game, and I hope all of you do too, and you use, but like I leave this game just thinking Pedri and Frenkie De Jong have to be the starting midfielders, right? There's just no other way around it. Gavi continues, even though he just turned 18, he needs to continue to improve, and I just don't think he's there yet to be a week in, week out starter and create offense. He was doing some runs into the box, but overall, Frenkie De Jong came on, and I felt like it was night and day seeing the ball being driven forward from our midfield.
Well, yeah, and I want to comment on that. I think with that midfield that we started with, Gavi was playing very offensively in the first 20 minutes with Raphinha, Dembele, and Lewandowski running into the box, trying to make plays, which was good to see. But I think, one, Frenkie does a better job with that, and two, a big problem was the midfield wasn't transitioning forward farther back on the pitch, and I think Frenkie, when he came in, was able to facilitate that and make those runs down the middle and create some...
Well, dribble with it, right?
Yeah,
I think your point is that he was receiving the ball farther back and then driving it forward, which is definitely a huge miss from that first half.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about the front three too, right? Because that is the shiny golden front three of Raphinha, Dembele, and Lewandowski. And I think there's, some criticisms, right? The unfortunate news is that Dembele seemed a little bit to be pulling his, touching his hamstring at the end of the game, which is really scary. We also saw Kessie in that second half come up on his ankle, although he seemed to be okay. But that front three, I was fairly happy with Dembele. I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of people upset at he had one really egregious touch in the 85th minute, and he wasn't able to put the ball in the back of the net. But I thought overall he created a clear-cut opportunity for Lewandowski, Pedri, and Raphinha, right? Going down the wing, cutting it inside, and giving them a shot to make a fairly decent shot on goal from the middle of the box, and no one put it away. So yeah, what did you think about the front three use?
Dembele did, like you said, he did a great job in those aspects. I also liked he took some good opportunity shots. He wasn't skying the ball, but he was kind of a opposite situation where he wasn't putting enough on the ball, making it easy for the goalie to save. So that was I think he needs to find that sweet spot there. And then the other thing was, I think a lot of times when Dembele was on the ball and made some good passes to, let's say, Raphinha when he was open at the front of the box, I think Lewandowski should have been in that position a little bit and maybe finding Lewandowski in those positions. But, let's also consider Lewandowski has been dropping back a little bit to receive the ball, make it come forward, but he's still finding those good opportunities in the middle with some cool headers and some possible shots. I think he had one good shot that went wide on the left side. But overall, I really like the dynamics of that front three. We can get Dembele and Raphinha constantly switching sides. If one is getting pressured, maybe he can switch over and force some defensive. The defense has to adjust to those things, right? And we don't want to be predictable. So with that front three, I really enjoy that dynamic. Lewandowski always seems very energetic and able to find good opportunities. He just has that knack for it. I do want him to find a little bit more open space like Raphinha was doing, but that may just be due to the defense lineup of Rayo Vallecano. So other games we might see a different dynamic. But overall, I was very pleased with it. I think we had like 20 shots on goal, a few of those on target.
6, I believe. 20 shots, 6 on goal. That's, I think, the story of the game that makes it a little bit confusing. There's a lot of reactionary takes people are going to have about Dembele, about Sergio Roberto, Gavi, Araujo in his position, and it's a little bit hard, right? Because at the same time that we've criticized some of these players so far in this video, I think that the game overall wasn't bad. I mean, we had a lot of shots on goal and we just couldn't put them away. It's that classic issue Barca have where like the opposing goalkeeper plays out of their mind and has some good saves. And Rayo gave us a lot of troubles last season. We lost twice last season. We drew today. I mean, that is overall an improvement. Just not the one we all wanted to see.
Give a little credit to Rayo, right? They did a good defensive game, although I did think they wasted way too much time.
Yeah.
But that is La Liga to Barca sometimes, where they set up a block and we have to adjust and figure out how to get through that. I think we did have a difficulty doing that.
I think, one thing, so in terms of takeaways from this game, Ter Stegen looked really good, right?
Yeah.
I felt like this was a return to old Ter Stegen. He had a few shot stops that were pretty big.
Yeah. I mean, that game could have they had 2 good breakaways, Rayo, that could have scored and taken this game, and we would have lost. Well, we would have gained no points, but at least we got one here. We know yesterday, Sevilla had lost to Osasuna, so they didn't get any points, and that is going to be a competitor down the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tough, man. I feel like we can't afford to lose points, right? And like, especially in the first game of the season, it feels so disappointing. But at least we know that at least we lost with the team playing pretty well, right? Especially with so many new players in the mix. You have Christensen with his first game. You have Raphinha with his first game. Lewandowski with his first game. Those are major positions for us to have players with their first ever La Liga game. Sure. And so, as much as we can be disappointed, I think we have to take away that, okay, we learned some things here, right? Araujo against a low block team, probably not the best idea. Sure. Frenkie De Jong should start ahead of Gavi. We probably need to buy another right back if Xavi indeed does not trust Serginho Dest. Busquets probably needs to get the plug pulled on him earlier, right, in these games. Like, I hate that we keep him in every game for the full 90 minutes. In this game, he got a red card, right, in like the 86th minute, elbowing Falcao in the face, and he really could have been taken out, 65th minute or so.
I also thought, we had some calls that did not go in our favor, just as the last kind of insight on how the situation kind of doesn't go in our favor. But we probably should have had a penalty on Lewandowski there earlier in the game, but it didn't go our way. But we can't just rely on those kinds of situations to make things happen. We do have to adjust. Xavi needs to adjust his strategy. I think, there is a lot to learn from this game. It's the first game of the season against really La Liga, not counting Real Madrid. What?
I just don't know. That's what's going to be hard for me to do is like... I hate when everyone gets so negative and like critical, and I'm trying to avoid doing that. But last season on the first game day of the year, we beat Real Sociedad 4-2 with a team that Messi had just left that was much worse. Like, is it really acceptable for us to be drawing 0-0 against Rayo Vallecano at home when we just spent like almost $200 million in transfers? Like, I don't know, right? That's a question we have for you guys. Like in the comments, like, how do you leave this game feeling? Do you think it's absolutely not excusable? Xavi messed up tactically, not playing Frenkie De Jong and playing Araujo at right back and not even calling up Serginho Dest? Or are we happy that there is some good signs from this game and that the first few games of the season are going to be rough when you add so many key players to the team? Let us know. Curious to hear what you guys think. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. First game of the season's back. Please hit that sub button. If you're on Apple Podcasts, review us. Spotify, give us that follow. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, guys.